Looks like we're rolling. Welcome to Morning Phlegm with your host. Oh my God. All right, we got to get this started because there's some pre-discussion that has to happen. I mean, Jeremy Barker's here, so we got some pre-discussion. Then we got the episode, but we gotta start the episode. All right, I'm just gonna start it.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Oh boy. I think I just woke up the rest of the house. All right, well, if anybody was sleeping in this house, they're not anymore. Welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for medium and large companies, and I also run Podcast Engineering School. And every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We talk shop with podcast producers and engineers and other specialists. Of course, I'm an audio engineer from the music business, which I was heavily involved in the 90s and some of the 2000s, half the 2000s. And anyway, if you implement the best of what you learn here, your podcast will sound a lot better and you'll spend less time producing them. All right? Time is money. Quality is important. And I'm sort of struggling with this new mic setup I have for myself because I've been doing a lot more live streaming and I'm trying to figure out a way to have my mic further from my mouth. So anyway, let me welcome Jeremy because I don't want to ask his opinion about this. Jeremy Barker, he's the owner of Back Row Studios and he lives in Ohio and he hosts several podcasts, the Back Row Fantasy Show and the Back Row Talk Show. And these will all be linked in the show notes. So go ahead and click the links and check out his stuff. He also does a couple YouTube channels. One is called Obscure Mics. How did I not know about this Obscure Mics channel, Jeremy?
It's an underlying just dumpster project. That's pretty much why you don't know.
Dude, I thought you were gonna say like it's a gem in the rough that no one has discovered yet.
Well, you know, sometimes you find those and there's a lot of crap on them before you get to the good stuff. So I'm just trying to get through all the crap to find that good video that people's like, oh, this guy is serious.
Okay. All right. Well, so a couple things before we get started, and we're gonna go through Jeremy's speed round. He's gonna tell us, within about a 1 minute time span, he's gonna tell us his whole signal chain from his microphone to his interface, or if he has any channel strips, then into the computer and what DAW he uses and software, and then how he exports it and uploads it to his media host. We're gonna do the speed round in a second, but Jeremy, I want your opinion on my mic setup. So, yeah, because you're doing these YouTube videos, and you also have a YouTube channel called Back Row Reacts, which is a reaction channel, which I have to say, I really like a lot of these reaction videos that are becoming really popular. Of course, there are some people who react. I mean, they might just laugh a little. They don't add very much, or they don't comment on the sound very much or the song or the comedy, whatever they're reacting to. But there are some people who are reacting, and their reactions are really sort of deep and insightful. Have you found that?
Yeah, and I find that those people that are just kind of laughing, they're playing it safe. Those people are playing it safe because if you add your opinion to anything, YouTube will come after you with pitchforks. So those folks are playing it safe. We decided we were going to be honest no matter what. And I started watching the reaction videos and I'm like, you know what? This is, for some reason, I get an odd, immense amount of pleasure from watching someone enjoy something that I enjoy. I kind of relate it to my father. Like he would put on AC/DC when I was younger and he would look at me the whole time to see if I liked it, which made it really uncomfortable. Like that's what a reaction video is like. Like you can actually watch someone to see if they enjoy a song or not. And you don't have to be creepy about it because they can't see you watching. So we're honest and we get tore to shreds and a lot of thumbs down. And it's actually fun.
Yeah, it's I tend to watch a lot of these reaction videos, people reacting to Tool songs because I really like the band Tool. And there's a lot of people who've never heard Tool because Tool is one of those, I wouldn't call them an underground band really, but they kind of are and were. And it's like, so a lot of mainstream people who like mainstream music typically, they've never heard Tool. So now, Tool just came out with a new album at the end of 2019. So people are reacting to Tool and they're like genuinely blown away by Tool. And you can see that on the screen. And like you said, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm hanging out with these people. I feel like we could be on like a Skype call together, just hanging out, listening to a song.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like watching a YouTube video. Well, the good ones anyway,
Well, Chris, this is a cheesy line that gets used a lot, but did we just become best friends? Because, listen, seriously, Tool is my favorite band.
Really?
Yes. The reason I started the reaction videos is because I was so excited about Fear Inoculum because it's been 13 freaking years.
Yeah.
That I was like, I've got to see what people think about this. And I was like, wow, this is really enjoyable to watch people almost cry over these new Tool songs. Literally, the podcast, the Back Row Talk Show, I can't help it. I do what I want. Half of the episodes I put out so far, Tool is mentioned in at least half of them. So I've been to see them like 7 or 8 times. I'm a super fan.
Oh,
that's
man.
You just hit me in the feels.
There you go. We're best friends now. That's it.
Tool brings people together.
That's so cool. So my new mic setup, I've been doing more streaming, and I wanted to, normally when I was using my sort of old school RE20, when I would just record audio only, I would put the mic really close to my mouth. Like I'd put my lips like literally an inch from the windscreen, right? Because I wanted that proximity effect. It makes my voice sound a little more full and bigger and nicer. I like it. But now that I'm starting to do videos and live streams, like it just looks stupid to have a microphone that close to my lips. So I want to put the microphone a little further away, like maybe 6, 7, 8 inches away. But when I do that, I don't really like the way it sounds. It sounds a little distant and a little wimpy. And so I'm trying to figure out like where to put my mic, like off to the side or on the below me, pointing up at my face. And then I'm also trying to figure out what mic is good. So I don't know. I'm going through this phase of trying things out. I mean, what do you do for your YouTube stuff when people are going to see you on the screen with your mic?
I kind of take a page out of Bandrew's book. I know you know Bandrew. He's been on the show many times from Podcastage. Mm-hmm. He always talks about a 30-degree angle, kind of having your mic at a 30 degrees, so to help with plosives. And on YouTube, like I've got the mic at a 30-degree angle, so it's sort of pointing at the corner of my mouth. And I think it does obstruct my face a little bit, but I'm so much more about the audio than the video that people are just going to have to deal, I guess.
Got it. Yeah, that's actually what I'm trying right now. So I have my newer RE20, my modern RE20 pointed at, it's probably about a 45-degree angle. It's off to my right, and it's pointing at my mouth. And I'm speaking past it, so my plosives. But I bet the plosives are still going to get picked up. I think I might have unnaturally pronounced plosives or something.
Yeah. I compare it to a Nerf gun, like Nerf gun mouth. Do you just push that air out like a Nerf blaster? Or I try my best not to let them enter the mic, but it's difficult.
Yeah. So you're in Ohio, and so if you're listening to this, we don't normally do this much chit chat before we get to the speed round. But dude, Jeremy Barker, you live 20 minutes away from Chillicothe, Ohio, which is where I went to audio school back in 1991.
Yeah, the Glade plug-in capital of the world, Chillicothe, Ohio.
Yeah, you're saying that because when I went to school there, when we first got there, we're like, what is that smell? And we're like, what? And someone said, oh, it's a paper plant down the road. And we're like, really? Okay. And then literally 24/7 for 8 weeks, I think I was there for 8 weeks, it always smelled like that. It was like, is this how we live around here? Wow.
Yeah. The only paper I knew that smelled like that was toilet paper. I don't know why the whole place is like that, but it does have a unpleasant aroma, and I do feel bad that you had to spend that many days in a row with that smell.
Well, I will say it was a little unpleasant, but it wasn't like nasty. It wasn't like
it gets bad.
Oh, it does get bad?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You get one of those like 3-day, rainforest type of climates there, and it's bad. It gets pretty bad.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone listening is like, what am I listening to? All right. So let's get to the speed round. Jeremy Barker, tell us, man, what mic are you using and what do you have it plugged into? Just take us through your signal chain real quick.
Well, this changes quite often because, like you, I like using different mics. I never stick to one. But right now, my current favorite, and I can see myself using it for a while, I use a Electro Voice RE320. I just like the way it sounds in my voice. I am in the process of learning more. Part of the reason I want to come on this show, I'm probably one of the more amateur podcast producers you've had on, but I am running into a RODECaster Pro. I do use the built-in effects for that, and then I use some plugins in Logic from Melba that are free, and I use an exciter on there if I'm using a really deep mic that the exciter on the Rode doesn't quite accentuate my voice enough. And I use the basics, a little bit of compression, de-esser. There is a channel strip that I got recently that was recommended by you, a free one that I haven't quite delved into yet. Man, I can't remember the name of that. I downloaded it the day before it stopped being free.
Oh, is that Celestial from Acustica?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I'm currently in the process of messing with that. So I am very much still trying to find the exact sound that I want out of my setup.
Okay, so that's your hardware. So then you got your RODECaster Pro plugged into the computer. And so what do you record on?
Logic.
Logic. Okay. Sorry if you mentioned that. I'm like,
oh no, that's okay.
Dizzy head looking at your notes and trying to mute myself and cough. And you know the deal, hosting a show.
Well, the smell from Chillicothe also is a long-term effect. So it does. You do start to think like, did that really mess me up long-term? Someday, answer is yes.
Someday when I go on my tour, on my United States tour and world tour of visiting all the guests on the show, I can't wait to come visit you, and we'll drive to Chillicothe and we'll get out of the car and just take it in,
Yeah, we'll go to one of the best restaurants, put a clothespin on our nose, and have a nice lunch.
I swear I remember sitting in a Wendy's eating, and I'm like, is this how it always is? All right, so your Logic Pro, and then yes. So you mix it out of Logic, and what about the MP3? What type of MP3, and then where do you upload it?
So I got recruited by a startup called RedCircle Podcasts. They wanted us to be like the flagship fantasy football show on their channel. So I moved over to there, and usually just depending on how long the episodes go, they allow up to a 200 megabyte episode, I believe. So I usually just mix it down to MP3, highest quality if possible, even though it sometimes doesn't make a difference. I'll still go, 320 kilobytes per second if it fits. But yeah, RedCircle, it's free. They have like a cross promotion feature. They lured us in. It was pretty easy, and it's been somewhat fruitful.
Okay, RedCircle. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people have heard of it yet.
And you know what it reminds me of? Which isn't there something where you can rent movies from like a
Redbox?
Redbox.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's another big time Ohio thing because we're all pretty bored here in Ohio. So Redbox gets frequented quite often.
Wait. How close are you to Mr. Hall of Fame Dave Jackson?
Who?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Get it. No
that
way.
guy.
You crazy?
That guy.
Oh, dude. Clip of the year right there. Oh, sorry, Dave.
That guy.
That guy. You go to his
actually, that was genuine because it you faded just a little bit. I did not get the actual name, but I assume you said Dave Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, it was the internet Squadcast dropout.
It was. I don't know. Where does Dave live? I listen to those shows too, but I've never really done the research to know where anyone lives because, I'm in purgatory, so I just assume everyone's better.
I believe he's up northeast Ohio-ish, like more towards Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
What's that? Right where Pennsylvania meets Ohio. What's the name of the town there? Youngstown?
Youngstown, yeah.
Well,
that's a solid 5 hours.
Well, he's not in Youngstown, but he's up toward that way, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do some research.
All right. And so, all right, well, that's a good speed round. So now I really want to pick through this. So, all right, you're using an RE320. I got to say, I might end up on that mic too, because I love that mic. It's so cool.
Me too. And it's one of those things, like I've actually owned it multiple times because that's kind of what I do. I have this bad habit of getting the mic in, and I record clips of every mic that ever comes through on obscure mics. And I go back and listen quite often because I'm just on that search for the right mic for me. And I listened to the last time that I owned an RE320 from like a year ago. And I was like, why did I get rid of that? What was I thinking? So here it is again. The RODECaster was the one before this, but yeah, I like the RE320. I just feel that it's a good, solid all around mic.
Okay, so the RODECaster, which I also have one of them, and so what are your thoughts on the RODECaster?
It just, for some reason, it doesn't carry enough bottom end oomph for me. Like, I just kind of feel like it's a little bit too neutral, a little too normal. And plus I record with, two other guys in the studio, and I'm not a big condenser microphone guy. I mean, granted, there's great ones out there, but for what I do primarily, it just doesn't work in my setup. I don't have the most well-treated space. It's pretty good, but I'm just one of those worrywarts that worries about bleed in and worries about background noise. So I tend to just go with my dynamics.
Got it. Yeah, I also feel the same way about the RODECaster. Like, for folks who don't know, it's about a $400 condenser microphone, but it's made for broadcasting. And one of the cool things, it actually has a little red light on it, which you can hook up to. You can actually somehow hook that up to a sign outside the room that says like recording. So I don't know how that works. I've never hooked up that.
I haven't either. I've only looked at the part and I thought, like, man, that looks more like a flux capacitor than something you would run to a now recording sign. But I never really messed with that. But I mean, it's a really nice sounding mic. There's just something about it that is too normal for me.
Yeah, it has a lot of clarity like condensers do. So it has a lot of high end clarity and almost, for me, almost sharpness. Like, it was a little sharp for me because I don't know. I'm sort of like a caveman host of a show. Like, I speak a little loud, and so and maybe my voice is not harsh, but not grating. Hey, maybe my voice is harsh and grating. What do you guys think?
We'll just say that mic's not for excited people, because it's, you get a little excited and it just comes through totally thin. I'm that way too. I get a little too amped up on everything that I do, so I need something with some low end to make me feel like I'm a little more serious.
Right, but here's the thing. You're using an RE320, and that does not have a ton of low end either.
I feel like it's a nice, smooth balance there.
Yes, I agree with that. Yep.
So not sense. A ton. I don't like to be boomy. Like, one of the mics I had in recently, which was absolutely amazing. It's a Beyerdynamic M99. Oh. It's another RE320 like mic that's really good for voice, but also has a kick drum mode as well.
Right.
That thing sounds beautiful, but it just was a little tiny bit too boomy for me. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the space. You mentioned that you sometimes have 2 or 3 other people in your space and you're all recording. And so first of all, describe your space.
Okay. So we're going to throw it back to the backwoods. You got to remember that I live in Ohio. So we're not extremely sophisticated for the most part in my neck of the woods. So I used to have a home with a guest house. I turned that guest house into a recording studio. It was fairly impressive, in my opinion. I have recently moved into a house that is smaller. We downsized. I had a crappy job that I made way too much money at. Money's not important to me, so I downgraded to a less stressful job, which meant smaller house, less space. All of a sudden, I have no recording studio. So I don't know, Chris, if while you were down here, you ran into any of these, or maybe where you live. Are you familiar with the Amish made buildings that you can purchase?
Not really, but those, it's not like a tiny house or something, is it?
Kind of.
Okay.
It kind of is. It's like a 16 by 20. It's almost like a little pre-built barn house. It's got like a nice set of double doors on one side and a single door on the other. So it's got a real natural wood color with a metal roof. So I bought this thing and put it on my property and ran electric to it, whole 9 yards, and drywalled the inside, insulation, all that good stuff, and pretty much wall to ceiling not soundproofing, but sound treatment. So it is literally a box on the hill from my house that has been converted into a small recording studio.
That is so cool, man. So like it's almost like a detached man cave.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Accurate. Now people where I'm from, they buy these to live in. So
right.
You literally will drive down a back road and someone will have their door open and they're in a shed with a bed and a TV,
right,
and maybe a 5-gallon bucket to use for facilities. but yeah, I mean it's worked out really well. It's a nice little escape room and it's set up exactly how I want it.
That is so cool. And it's separated from the house. So like whatever nonsense and craziness you're doing with your shows, it doesn't affect the family, right?
No. And I have plenty of kids. I have 4 children. So
great.
I no worries there. No mom, he won't let me have this toy. None of that. So I just escape. And about the only bad thing that happens from time to time is a loud truck that goes by. Because again, I am in Ohio and one's going by right now, actually.
Oh,
good times. So,
wait.
Did you hear it?
I don't know. You know what? Because I keep my headphones so low during recording, like I don't hear a lot of background noise. So even when we were like doing a little sound check, you're like, "Hey, can you hear this little heater that's running?" And I'm like, "No, but let me crank up my headphones."
Well, hopefully not. But you know, this area,
good.
people love to drive big 4x4 trucks, and they like to make them loud. So once in a blue moon, I'll get that on a recording, and sometimes you can help it, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, well, Barry's here with me, and of course, Barry, hold on a second. Barry, get up on the mic there. Yeah, okay. Barry, what is Jeremy Barker going to need to make sure that the road sound doesn't come into his mics?
You're going to need a couple of horses or a couple of mules.
Anything else?
Saws, hammers, nails.
Really? Anything else?
Beans, coffee, and biscuit, and a little piece of fat back.
Hey, do you ever have beans, coffee, and biscuit in your in your studio?
Man, Barry knows me, man. This is getting a little freaky, to be honest. Yeah, the wife eats a lot of beans and cornbread. I have the coffee. No horses, but I mean, there's probably a couple at the neighbors. So I could probably borrow 1 or 2.
You know what Barry was actually talking about in that conversation where I clipped that from?
God only knows.
He's talking about the settlers who were like moving westward in America back in the 1800s and stuff. I don't know how we got talking about that, but he's like, yeah, like these guys on horses, they would be like not chaperones, but like a guide. Like if you wanted to move your family from like Maryland to Colorado, like you have to hire someone to bring you across the country, right? Because you don't know how to go, how to go across the country, bring all your stuff. So anyway, he's talking about that and that they would have to obviously stop and camp and, it'd take a long time to get for that trip. So anyway, he's talking about breakfast. He's like beans, coffee, and biscuit.
Little does Barry know, it's conversations like that literally are lasting a lifetime.
All right, so now you got your sound treatment in your studio. And then, so what do you got? Like, there a table where your co-hosts come in and you sit around a table or something?
Yeah. I've actually got a homemade, not by me because I'm not that kind of guy, but I've got a custom-made table for the podcast. Some nice VIVO boom arms. Nobody really knows about those either, but I highly recommend them. And camera setup. That's kind of where I'm failing right now. I'm not a camera guy, but doing the streaming. You learn that you need to become a camera guy. So, got the light rings, got the lighting, in the walls. I mean, it's full 9 yards, as much as I could make it anyways.
That's cool. So these VIVO boom arms, tell me about them.
Okay, so I am just the pickiest person in the world. So everybody that starts getting into audio, typically you're going to have your fair share of like newer microphones and newer boom arms, just getting started learning the hard way. And so you got these cheap boom arms that work pretty well. I have no problem with them. I still use them, like one in my office, one on a little corner here in the studio with a single mic setup. But I really wanted something beefy that looked good on video because I'm shallow like that. So I find these VIVO boom arms. There's this company called VIVO that supplies arms for places like restaurants. I want to say Bob Evans, but a lot of people probably don't know what Bob Evans is. With the monitors on it that show the orders and show things like that. It's like the adjustable arms. So somebody requested that they make a microphone arm, which is basically just their other arm with a 5/8 threading on the end. So these are on Amazon for like $60. I get one in. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best arm I've ever used besides my own. And yeah, I highly recommend them. They will hold any mic. Like the Rode Pod mic, we all know weighs like 7 tons. It has no problem with that thing. SM7B, no problem with that either. So, and it looks really good on video, really good professional looking boom arm. And for the price, I mean, it's way better than a Rode PSA-1 and it's about half the cost. So kind of a can't go wrong boom arm in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah. And that's VIVO, VIVO.
VIVO. Yeah. If you check out Obscure Mics or Back Row Reacts, you know, those are always on video. So they're the 3 mics, the 3 boom arms on the table, and they're really heavy duty.
Hey, for Obscure Mics, have you ever tried a ribbon mic?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's coming,
you know,
because I've got a million.
Maybe we could talk to Roger Cloud, you know, the maker of the Cloud Lifter, because Cloud microphones, he also makes a ribbon mic or several. So
I've seen at least one of them. It's kind of got the old RCA style to it, right? The Cloud ribbon mic.
I believe so. Yeah. And it's like, you know, if it was not expensive, I literally would have bought one already to try it because I really want to try some ribbon mics, but it's like $1,500, so it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And it's not something he could just give me or give you. You know what I mean? It's too much for that.
I believe I don't know. You said Roger Cloud, right?
Yep.
I believe there's a podcast out there that I listened to the other day where they use that mic on the podcast. And it is I believe it's Roger Cloud.
Yeah, he started a show. I forget the name of his show.
I do too, but it seems like it was only a few episodes and there hasn't been anything for a while.
Right, yeah, that's that happens a lot, right? It's
Yeah. That's what we're all trying to avoid, basically.
Yeah. I mean, doing a weekly podcast is, look, I'm not going to equate it to like boot camp in the Army or something or whatever, but like that, like anyone can do 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. It's like week 4, week 5, week 10. I mean, it becomes such pressure.
Yeah. The rigors are real. I mean, it gets tough, man. I've had my share of pod fade, and I mean, I'm only a little over 2 years in, working on 2.5 years. And I mean, there's definitely peaks and valleys. There's definitely times where you're like, man, I don't even feel like doing this tonight. Mm-hmm. But you know, if you're on a schedule and then you notice that too, sadly, I re-listen to my episodes just to see what I need to fix. Mm. And I'll be like, man, you could tell that I would rather be at a Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh,
you know,
you're right.
Like you could just tell I wasn't into it. I hate those moments, but they happen.
Right. Yeah. It's all normal and it's all good. You just got to keep going, push through and try to have as much fun as you can. Right. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, your podcasting school comes in, to be honest. Like if I start to get a little bit complacent, I start thinking of what I can do to get my head back in the game. And that's usually what's my next step in learning more about production, learning more about audio quality. So that's where it comes in. I mean, that's why I've been listening to the show, you know, for the past 4 or 5 months, just trying to get my head completely back in the game. It's definitely the hobby for me. So, I mean, I'm not going anywhere, but at the same time, need a little pick me up here and there.
That's a great point. I never actually thought of that. That just a podcaster sort of focusing on better production, meaning maybe better equipment or better plugins, or just using their equipment and plugins that they have now more expertly, in a more expert manner. That's in a way that, like you said, that keeps you in the game, right? And keeps you interested.
Yeah, it's kind of like I relate it to acting. I don't know anything about acting, but I imagine if I whiffed on the first 2 or 3 takes, once I get it right, I'm going to check it out over and over and be like, okay, that's what I needed to do. And that's kind of how it is with podcasting me. I'll listen to that episode where I try a new mic or, try a new plugin. And I'm like, okay, this has got me excited because this was better than the last. Mm-hmm. So it's always striving to get a little more perfect, whether your average everyday listener has any idea what you're using or not. It's about what you want to hear.
Totally. And so I'd really like to have you come on. I'm doing these live streams to Twitch for Podcast Engineering School.
Yeah.
And I'm having guests like show their screens, show their DAW and plugins and talk through it. So anyway, we'll talk about that. I want to invite you onto that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So you got, cause in your studio, you got lighting, you got cameras, and that's a whole nother layer of tech and production. I mean, just, you had to, because even with audio, you have to set up the mic, do some test recording, listen back, and then maybe change some settings, and then make another test recording, listen back. Like, when you have a whole video set up with lighting and cameras, how long does it take to do some testing till you get it set up the way you want it?
Oh, you asked the wrong question.
Oh,
okay. You didn't actually, but this is where my shame comes in. So I'm a lazy podcaster and lazy video guy.
Okay.
Like a lot of people love their audio interfaces and love post-production. I'm that guy that wants it all set up from the get-go. And when I press stop on the recording, I want that to be the last work that I do. Granted, that's not the case 9 times out of 10, but that's what I strive for. So video is worse to me than that smell in Chillicothe. It is very much a pain. Like I started out with a really nice camera that my dude Bronson from Audio Hotline, another YouTube channel, sent me over a real nice camera. And I was doing the clap method to get the audio synced in, which was fine, but it was more work. So I'm like, I really need to find a method where I don't even have to mess with that, make my editing process easier. So it does. It takes a lot of time. The podcasts, where I'm at in my production part of my career, the podcasts are kind of easy until I find the next level that makes me put more work into it, go for that bigger, better sound. But video is where I'm spending most of my time right now, because there is a lot of cutting, a lot of syncing, a lot of, adding in images, and it is a pain. I'm kind of about to take my YouTube channels and just do black screen and me just, talk about the mics, but
I hear you, man.
I guess.
Yeah,
it is. It's tough.
Yeah, and switching the thing is, like, just to have one camera up and that's it. Like, if it was just a single person doing a video or a live stream with one camera, that's one thing. But as soon as you have multiple cameras and multiple people, dude, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's just a pain. And the way my setup is, the main computer I stream through is adjacent to me in the corner of the room, and I can see it pretty well. But sometimes I have to edit out just where I ask my co-host, like, hey man, can you see if my cursor is actually on start recording or not? Because I can't really, I can't see it. I can't see it. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of me editing out just me having questions like, hey dude, you're closer. Can you tell me if I'm hitting the right camera?
Right.
So yeah.
Interesting.
It's a work in progress for sure.
All right, let's talk about the RODECaster Pro, which is a great, I think everyone knows about this unit by now. Yeah. It's been out for a little more than a year, and you like it?
I do. The one thing I hate about it is I grew up in school as like a punk rock kid. So I hated everything that everyone else liked. So I'm starting to hate this thing because everybody loves it, but not really. I won't get rid of it. It does make, for a guy like me that's trying to get everything right from the get-go, it helps me in that aspect. I do appreciate how easy it is to make interviews happen because a mix minus is pretty easy, but not when you first start. Like when you first get going, a mix minus is kind of confusing. Then you figure it out and you're like, I almost feel like the more you cut out of a mixing board, just the more you can fine tune your sound, if that makes any sense. So I went with this thing and I just enjoy the simplicity of it. I like the built-in effects. The big bottom is a little better than any copycat that I can find as far as cheap plugins go. I'm not a rich man, so I don't buy a lot of expensive plugins, but it does what I need it to do. And I appreciate the sound pads for drops. It's just a nice piece of kit for people say 600 is a little pricey, but for what I needed, it's right on the money for me.
Nice. And because you mentioned Big Bottom, Ralph M. Rivera just had to take a drink of his beverage. So
nice. Anytime you can get people, drinking, it's a good time.
Carrot juice. That's what he drinks. But,
Well, I'm not a drinker either. So, I mean, whatever it is, it's a good time.
Yeah, I'm not a drinker either, which I don't know. I almost feel for live streaming that people like drinking and smoking while you're live streaming is like, or like partying and live streaming it. That seems to be a good combination because you can just hang out with more people. But again, for folks that don't drink or smoke, it's like, well, what, I mean,
you busted me out a little bit. So we do drink when we do the back row reacts. So okay. I wasn't 100% honest. Now when I think of drinking, I think of like drinking.
Right.
So we have, 2 or 3 adult beverages while we're doing that.
Got it.
And that is my one night. I have one night a week where I have a cigarette, and that's the night. So
interesting.
So I guess I do party a little bit.
Well, yeah. And by the
Not
way,
much.
I know what you mean by drinking. I call that Ralph M. Rivera drinking. When you black out and you end up in a gully somewhere with leaves all on your hair. You know what I mean?
Yes, have been there. I don't recommend that for any podcasters for sure.
All right.
You want to lose motivation, you do that.
All right. So you use the big bottom effect. And so you're using the RE320 now. What are your co-hosts using in studio?
RE320.
RE320s. Okay.
Yeah.
See? Well, this makes sense. You're using the big bottom with the RE320. That must sound really good.
I do enjoy it.
Dude.
Yeah, and I've got one co-host that sounds just like Barry, so I just turned his big bottom off. Maybe put an exciter on him just to kind of get him along the same lines as me and the other guy that are thin-voiced and frail. And it works out. And that's another thing I'm a stickler about. Like, even though this mic may not be for everyone, I'm a shallow mic guy. Like, I've got to have the same mics on the stream or on the YouTube channel. I like things to match. I've got a pair of shoes that match just about every outfit I've got. And that's just what I do. So the 320 has worked really well for all three of us. And I think that's saying something when you can find one mic of the same brand, use across the table. So I have an appreciation for it for sure.
Definitely. And using 3 different mics for 3 different people is, that is, from an audio engineer standpoint, how do I say it? It's like more work or just more mental stress or something. I don't know how to say it, but it is good when you have all the same mics, and especially when it's a really good mic. That it just makes everything easier.
Yeah, and you don't, I guess when you really think about it, you don't see many productions where they're using different mics. So
right.
Typically,
all right, so
they'll all be using the same one.
Oh, sorry, I stepped on.
No, you're good. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just said typically they'll all be using the same kind of mic.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so you use the big bottom, you use the sound pads to play music and sound clips and stuff. What else in the RODECaster Pro do you use? Do you use that Aural Exciter?
Not a lot. I find that it's too shrill in most cases, But again, I've got a Barry here with me on our podcast. So his deep voice, the Exciter does, it kind of brings him up to the same clarity as me and the other guy. So even if it is a little rattly up top, like it does even us all out a little bit. So I do like it, but only for Mr. Deep Voice.
See, I like this. You're doing some good things here to sort of match different participants and stuff. It's really good, man.
Yeah, it's my car is super bassy, and that's where I do the majority of my listening, because I've got an hour commute, and I just all day trip there, trip back. I just analyze. I'm like, is my dude Brian sounding a little bassier than me? Is my guy Aaron over to the left, is he sounding a little clearer than we are? And it'll just drive me nuts. Like it'll bother me. I won't sleep. So that's where the excitement of podcasting comes back in. If I got new mics on the way, I was like, maybe this is it.
Right.
These 3 mics might be like our lightsabers, and we just go to battle and we win.
Nice. All right. So you capture all the audio, and then in post-production, you said you use some plugins. You use MeldaProduction, some of their plugins. What do you use from them?
Yeah, some of theirs. I mean, I use their compressor. I use the, I think it's called a MAGC, just to kind of mess with the levels. But I don't do a lot with that. I just typically I use those more if I'm on the road, because the Back Row Talk Show podcast that I do, that's kind of like just a really vague side project. I literally record that in my car sometimes, on my lunch at work. Like, podcasting is that important to me that I'm like, okay, I've got a lunch break. I'm not hungry. Let's record something. So I'll use that. That's where I'll use those. I'll use the Exciter on that because it's a lot more tame than the Rhodes Aphex Exciter. And I'll use the compression and just some of the basics on that.
Okay.
And the de-esser. So.
Okay. And then you got Celestial, which you're going to try.
Yeah, I haven't dove in yet. I'm pretty excited because I'm definitely a newbie with full-blown channel strips.
Yeah, so I downloaded it when it was free, and I think it's still free. Well, I don't know when this is coming out, but anyway, this plugin's for free for like 5 months or something. Anyway, Acustica is a good company, and Celestial, to me, I tried it a little bit, and it's definitely a high-quality plugin. It's a channel strip. It's not... To me, it doesn't feel like a traditional channel strip. There's a few things they have which are not very traditional, but that's actually a cool thing. And so, yeah, so if you need a channel strip, compression and a little bit of EQ, it might work. I don't want to come off sounding like it's the best plugin in the world. That hasn't been my experience, but it is very high quality. And here's the thing with plugins. Like, a lot of times, you just need something. Like, you'll listen to something and you'll be like, oh, it just needs a little compression. And then you're like, well, what do I got? And then you're like, oh, let me just try Celestial. And then you'll put it on and only use the compressor section. And you'll be like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I'll use it. So that's how I, a lot of times, use plugins, right? It's just like, well, what do I got? What do I need? And then just try something. So
yeah, I think I don't know if it was the last episode or one before last, you and your guest were talking about the best way to dive in is just get in there and crank everything up to an 11 and work your way down and figure it out. So that's what I plan on doing with Celestial. So, I mean, there's always good tips, when you listen to a podcast, especially like yours, there's methods that you just wouldn't think of. You might think to go in the opposite order and just tune everything up a little bit and work your way from there, but crank it up,
right?
Like, max it out and then work your way down. So I'm pretty excited to mess with it.
Overdo it. Don't just
overdo it. That's right. Make it sound like crap and then figure out how to make it sound good.
See, that's another That's another idea for a contest I would love to have. Besides my famous contest, which I never launched, like see who could submit the nastiest mouth noises.
Oh, I would be a contender. I would be a contender. Yesterday, I recorded a short podcast. And I was just pulling my hair out with editing. So I'm like, my God, it literally sounds like I'm eating Jell-O the whole time. I was so mad.
But another one could be like, hey, use some plugins and just overdo it and just make your voice sound horrendous, like way over processed. Just nasty. That'd be a good contest.
Get those mouth noises sounding like the ocean.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, these are contests. I'd love to run them, but no one would ever submit. I don't think anyone would submit anything.
I'm in. I mean, if we need a start on this, I'm game.
Well, it just takes work. That's the thing. Like, it's a funny contest, but like, is someone actually gonna maybe go through some of their old episodes and like, you know, copy a bunch of nasty mouth noises and put it into one file and then submit it to me? Like,
sadly, no.
It's a lot of work. I get that. So, all right. So
it's a good thought.
it's a fun thought. We'll see. I mean, when I become rich and famous, you know, Jeremy,
Just any day now.
You know, I keep checking my front door, but you know, no one's delivering that big check today.
Well,
I don't know.
You're only as famous as people think you are. So I mean, we didn't know each other. I know who you are. Like if somebody was to come up to me on the street and be like, "Hey, so Chris Crayon," I'd be like, "Oh yes, let's talk about Chris." So you're famous to some people. Like if you're known by anyone that you don't know, you're at least somewhat famous.
All right. So you used to use 3 Rode broadcasters, right?
Yes.
So what was the bleed like? Was there a lot of bleed between mics with those?
Yeah, I don't think between person to person, like I didn't really hear anything from my co-hosts and mine and vice versa.
Okay.
But when I asked you earlier before we started recording whether you could hear my small heater, which is vital to me in cold Ohio, I could hear that with the Rode broadcasters and it drove me nuts. So I'm like, what else can I hear with those, you know, being used? And I just cranked it up, listened to a few episodes. I'm like, there's a table noise, there's a chair squeak, and it just drove me nuts. So yeah. But the thing about the Rode broadcaster and why I even decided to use them is even though it's from a big company and it's technically a pretty solid mic, those things are not in demand. Every one of those I found pre-owned, which I'm fine with buying pre-owned as long as I cross-test it with, you know, some new clips and figure, yeah, everything still sounds the same. You can find those for like, I got each one of those for under $150.
Wow.
A piece. So, and that's where obscure mics came from. I want to find those mics that no one else is buying, that someone on eBay will take the first offer you throw at them. And, you know, did I get a quality mic for $35? Or did I find a great end address broadcast mic for $125 rather than paying the $400 for an SM7B? So I found those. They just didn't work. They're good mics, you know, but just not for me.
Yeah, to me, and to me, like the Rode broadcaster, like everything you said is exactly right, and I agree 100%. And it's probably not the right mic for many people, but there are some people where that mic might be perfect. It might be the one that makes them sound really good. Same thing with the exalted Heil PR40, you know, like
yes. And that was also on the show. That was used on our podcast for a while too, and the PR30. So, and I really like that mic. But there was something just a little bit off about it that I didn't care for.
Okay, so when you're recording, you got your RODECaster Pro, you're recording multi-track, obviously, you and a few people in the studio with you. And and then you're using Logic Pro as your DAW. So are you recording in both places when you record, Logic Pro and the RODECaster Pro?
Yes. Yeah, any way I can have a backup without buying a Zoom H5 or H6, I'm going to take advantage. So yeah, I do. I actually record 3 ways. I'll go into the DAW, into the RODECaster, and then I'm also recording on OBS on the stream.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so I make sure I have plenty of backups, even if that third option may be a little less quality than the other 2. So yeah, I definitely make sure I've got avenues in case something goes wrong.
And I really like this idea that you're listening in your car and you're listening critically and you're listening to the low end and the high end and the background noise and stuff, because over time you will develop your ear, you know, and that is, I mean, that's like vital to really becoming a better producer of audio or a better engineer. Like in some sense, I like to think of being an audio engineer as having a good ear. Not just like, hey, how do I plug this mic in? Or how do I, make a subgroup in my DAW? Or, you know what I mean? Those are tactical things. Like, okay, yeah, we all need to know that. But in the end, it comes down to your ear. Like, what are you hearing and how can you mix it? And how does it sound when you're done with it? And so what you're doing is building yourself up in that direction to having a good ear. And I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm one of those guys that I'm not cocky, but I feel like I can accelerate at something as long as I have interest. So the interest is just overwhelming. Like I thought whenever I started this whole audio adventure, I would be okay with good enough, which, sadly, I think most podcasts aren't even there yet. I mean, a lot of people just, okay, we recorded some stuff on this Blue Yeti. We sat around the table, middle of the room, Yeti in the middle, good to go. Let's post it. And that's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to strive for. But after hearing, me get incrementally better at putting out a product, it just kind of took on a life form of its own. So yeah, that's really what I want. I want to be able to literally hear a mic and know what it is, no matter what the voice is. I would like to at least have an idea of whether, it's a dynamic, a condenser, because sometimes they can fool you. I mean, there's some condensers out there that have a lot of detail, but I've just kind of became obsessed with it. I want to know what people are using by hearing their podcast. And if I can, get to that point, then I feel like I'll be completely ready to dive a lot deeper into post-production.
So, by the way, because I just remembered this, it's a fact that I just remembered. And because you have your show Obscure Mics on YouTube, can I just remind you and all the listeners that Bandrew Scott from Podcastage owns 400 microphones.
Yes.
400.
I don't know why he keeps them all. Like I've had quite a few conversations with Bandrew. Like he's definitely a good dude. We talk on like Twitter, direct message here and again, here and there.
Nice. But
man, you can see them in the video. The mic purgatory back on his back wall. And it's like, dude, when are you ever? I understand like enjoying owning a lot of microphones, but when is he going to use that Neewer in W700? When is he ever going to use that again? Like at least grab $7 off eBay for it.
Well, here's the thing. I actually appreciate what he's doing.
I do too.
Yeah, I know you do. Because this is why I said that. I appreciate what he's doing because I think sometime in the future, all those mics are going to come into play. He's going to have a use for all that. And I don't want to, start any rumors or spill any private details, but there may be a time when Bandrew and I team up to do some sort of in-person week-long cabin party.
Oh yeah, I was getting ready to say, is this at the cabin you guys have spoke of?
Yeah, and so like at that point, that's going to be a time where like, if there's a bunch of people hanging out in a cabin for a week, making music or just even recording podcasts, doing everything with audio production, it'll be real cool to have, maybe not 400, but maybe 100 mics.
I want to hear or view what happens. So I hope you guys plan, if this comes to fruition, you plan on making a production out of it.
Well, dude, we could even, I don't know. It's just an idea for now, but we could even like put some cameras around the cabin and like live stream everything.
That'd be fantastic. And then maybe in the future we will have the, Bandrew Korean Museum of Natural Microphones.
The museum, of course.
Yeah. Gotta have that. I mean, that would be one of the main reasons I could think of to keep those USB mics around.
The museum. Oh, one of the greatest comments on my blog ever. What are you, running a museum?
Yeah, why not?
Classic. All right, so Logic Pro. So how do you like Logic Pro?
I've tried about everything because, again, when I want to try every mic in the world, it means I want to try every interface, every DAW. And I think it's one of those situations where the first thing I used was GarageBand. So you kind of get used to what you learned first, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go back. It's like hearing that first Tool album. Like, none of them may live up to the first song you ever heard by them, or maybe the first great movie you loved. It's the first DAW that I felt comfortable with. I'm having a hard time breaking away from. So why make yourself break away from it if it's doing what you need it to do?
Right. So question though, you started with GarageBand, and now you're using Logic Pro. So, and they're both Mac only, obviously. So is there some continuity there? Like, is Logic Pro kind of like GarageBand?
I actually kind of regret the purchase because I don't do music production. I mean, I've got a few songs on SoundCloud that I've dabbled with, mostly just to try to be funny. But it's really close to the same. I really wouldn't recommend upgrading from GarageBand unless you're going into music production, and I don't do that. So if you're just a podcaster, GarageBand I think fits the bill. But me and my curiosity, I'm like, I gotta see what Logic's all about. And it's fine, it's good, it's great. But I mean, I didn't need to spend the money on it, to be honest.
So you're saying you would have been just as happy continuing to use GarageBand?
I think so. But I mean, at the same time, if I ever do dive in to music, or, if there's somewhere I run into, okay, Logic is much better for some of the more detailed audio production than GarageBand, maybe I won't regret the purchase then. But at this current time, GarageBand was doing what I needed it to do, and I'm not doing a lot differently in Logic.
Got it. Now I have tried Logic a little. Like, when I say a little bit, I mean I probably had Logic open for like 5 minutes before I couldn't do it anymore. And I've actually never used GarageBand at all, ever, for anything. But I'm pretty sure Logic Pro, it definitely has a lot more functionality than GarageBand. So I think it's true. Like, as you get more, like if you do want to do more intricate audio production and you want to get into finer details of post-production and stuff, I think Logic Pro has a lot more. So like you said, at that time, maybe it'll seem worth it that you upgraded, kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for. But every plugin I've tried goes right in the GarageBand find, and we'll see. I'm excited to get more into it. So
right.
Thanks to you, I'm on my way. I mean, you guys give a lot of good tips, and Barry really knows how to speak, words of wisdom to really get the gears rolling. So
thanks to me, you're spending a lot more money on hardware and plugins.
Can't take it with you.
That's what my students are great. I mean, they love it, but like some students come to me and they're like, oh my God, all these plugins, like they want every plugin, they want everything. And it's like, Chris, you're making me spend all kinds of money. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, just trying to help you out.
It's an investment.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it one way. Like, maybe you were spending that money on fast food and you're going to get better at audio production while getting thinner.
Thank you. That is a great argument.
Yeah. Don't buy Wendy's in that smelly Chillicothe place. Buy this plugin that I highly recommend.
Now I really want to, go to that Wendy's. I'll just have fries because I don't eat meat, but the Wendy's in Chillicothe. Oh, God.
Who can afford meat when you got plugins?
Yeah, I gave up meat for plugins. Oh, that's funny. All right, so you're mixing it out of Logic. And then do you mix it out of Logic directly to MP3?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
There are times when I mix it to WAV. That way I can do something more later. Right. I really don't like Audacity, but for some reason, to me, if I mix to WAV and import and run through Audacity, I get a higher volume level without actually touching the gain.
Huh.
So sometimes in my car, again, I'll be driving and I'll be like, my sweet spot, on my car's stereo system is 16.
Got it.
And with Logic, it's not loud enough at 16. But for some reason, when I go through Audacity without even touching the gain, I get this volume level that's perfect without any extra distortion or any there's something weird about it. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But Audacity is basically a gain plugin to me.
Got
it. That's sometimes I use it.
Yeah, and if you have, maybe you are just boosting the gain in Audacity a little bit, which is fine. Yeah, that's good.
I don't though. That's the weird part. I literally don't touch anything. It's just for some reason the recording comes out louder when I mix it down to MP3 in Audacity. I can't explain. Maybe it's my laptop. It's a little bit older, so that could be it.
Hold on, I'm looking for the perfect Barry clip. Where is it? Oh my God, I don't think I have it here. What a tragedy.
Barry let us down.
That's a mystery. Remember that one? That's a mystery.
Yes, I do.
That's frightening.
Not that. That's a mystery. Where?
I don't think so.
He don't feel like saying it.
Anyway, all right. I see. You ever want an example of missing a perfect opportunity? Because it's like, why is Audacity boosting the level a bit? That's a mystery.
It is. But hey, post-production, add it in later.
Oh God. All right. So so here, okay, we're getting close to the end, but I need to know, you're making MP3s. You say sometimes you make your MP3s 320 kbps?
Yeah, even though I know it's overkill, if it comes in at under, the 200 megabytes required by RedCircle, I just roll with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love that, of course, being, all about audio quality. I mean, I actually want to, I would love to make my episodes available as WAV files, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz for listeners if they wanted it.
Me too.
So, all right, but then sometimes you'll dial back the bit rate if it's too big.
Yeah. Usually, I mean, I've gotten it pretty much to a science. I know, if we do a show that's an hour and a half, I can't do 320. I'll have to go to like 224. So if we keep it at an hour or under, I'm good to roll. I can just go 320, post it, and forget about it. But yeah, I do wish WAV was an option for sure.
All right. Well, Jeremy Barker, this has been awesome, man. We're buddies now. We're both Tool fans.
Yeah, OGTs.
We bonded over the smell of Chillicothe, Ohio.
Yeah.
Someone clipped that.
It's painting a pretty picture. Hard rock, bad smells, and I don't know what the last part was.
Someday me and you will be in a Wendy's in Chillicothe.
Yeah.
Picture.
Eating fries, earplugs in with nose plugs.
Clothespin on our noses.
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy.
That could be a good painting.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, the links are going to be in the show notes here. Back Row Fantasy Show. That's one podcast. Back Row Talk Show. That's another podcast. And then on YouTube, Obscure Mics. And then also on YouTube, Back Row Reacts. Oh, I'm going to go watch both your YouTube channels, not simultaneously, but in series.
And enjoy the comments. I mean, we have been accused of being pre-diabetic. There's some harsh stuff on there, and luckily oh God, yes. If we don't like, we made the mistake of reacting to a song by a guy that had passed away, and we didn't know it. So the fact that we didn't like the song, we didn't say anything disrespectful. We just didn't like it.
Right.
But that was World War III. So
okay,
it's good times. But yes, thank you a ton for having me on here. Like I again, novice. So thank you.
No, dude, you're far above a novice, by the way. You're doing great. I really appreciate you taking an interest in your own audio production and learning, dude, because I'm telling you, over several years, you're going to be transformed into someone who really knows what they're doing. It's so cool. But are you, you're able to yell sound great, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, baby. So, all right, we'll yell sound great. And here's the thing, Jeremy. I want everyone who's listening in their car, wherever you're listening, if you're waiting in a doctor's office, all right, maybe you should leave the doctor's office to yell sound great. But wherever you are, I want you to yell, literally yell sound great. All right, go! Sound great!
No way. Crazy. You're gonna need, there's no activity, no giggle, no nothing.
Walk away from me, where you can't play that part so well. Why do you play it out on me now? And I up on me where some chance you gave me gave away. You say I wouldn't understand now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I say now it's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. Why tell you what me say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react so actively. I want you to know you will ever with me. So I gone over all we've been through. Doesn't seem that long a time now. Things we did still hold their meaning. Does it mean it's still the same? You're pushing me away. You worked your theories now where you getting worked up on you now. You work your way around somehow now. Yes, it hurts me now where that you don't talk to me now. Now that these worlds have split apart now. You tell me that you found